Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of IIT India's Walk the Tech Talk series Season 2 in association with India Automated. In case you have missed out on any of our previous episodes or episodes of Season 1 of Walk the Tech Talk series, then please do check them out on IIT India's YouTube channel. Before we proceed with today's session, I would like to give you a sneak peek into the world of the IIT. The Institution of Engineering and Technology is one of the oldest and largest professional society for engineers. Our mission is to engineer a better world. Our areas of focus include future of work, future of mobility and transport, and future technologies. In case you would like to become a member of the IIT, then all that you will need to do is send us an email at indiamembership@theiit.in. Now, moving on with today's session, I would like to invite on stage your host for this series, Mr. Pranjal Sharma, the author of India Automated, for him to introduce our special guest and the topic of discussion today. Hi, Pranjal.
Hi, Jani. Good to be back, and thanks for the introduction.
Thank you so much. The stage is all yours, and I'm going to be away while you invite our speaker guest.
Absolutely, and thanks to everybody for joining us for this edition of Walk the Tech Talk. And today we are going to Israel, and we are going to be talking to Agmon Porat, who is the head of LET Labs, and he is a domain expert on fourth industrial revolution innovation, especially in manufacturing. Welcome to the show, Agmon. So, Agmon, you're joining us from Israel. Tell us where you are right now and tell us a little bit about the labs that you work with. You are on mute, I think.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. So I'm located in Israel, in the north of Israel. I come from a company called 𝗪𝗪. It's actually one of the largest Israel metal processing company. And we opened an innovation lab focused on Industry 4.0. We did open innovation strategy to introduce innovation both in our product and in our manufacturing. And we got a grant from the Innovation Authority, a government entity, to help Israeli startups in the field of Industry 4.0. So startups get financing, they get a place to work and produce their technology inside the facility.
So do you create the technology and then you give it to the startups and perhaps license it to them, or do you work with them to create technology?
Okay, let me explain better. So our company is doing valves and fittings for industrial use. They sit in semiconductor, in oil and gas, in the industry. The industry itself is going a revolution now. Factories, small and big, we talked about it a little bit before the conversation now, have much more possibilities than before to integrate automation, to integrate IoT. For example, we are a valve company. It's a simple valve like in the kitchen, but goes to heavy industries. We knew we had to make that valve smarter. And together with a startup and a technology company, Samsung, and Siemens, through a collaboration, only collaborations, we were able to leapfrog that valve to sense what's going through it, to sense the temperature, the vibration, to sense the media in it and around it, and to be able to control itself. It's like leapfrogging, the product itself to become smart. And we did it only with open innovation. We took technology of a startup that, he needed a platform and he was happy to work with compared to India, a small company, a $200 million valve company, to integrate those sensors inside. And the multinational companies like Samsung and Siemens saw also value in introducing their platform, a win-win situation. Open innovation is bringing knowledge that we don't have from outside the organization inside, right? And we're a valve company. We have no idea about cloud, IoT, communication, sensors. So we had to do it with the startups and partners that know how to do it. And we were able to introduce a product very, very fast, which won awards, and it already we made sales of. And it's something that we would never have been able to do without open innovation. This is what
So
we.
that's a good point, Agmon. That's a very good point. I'd like to ask you about that. A lot of companies have to now learn very fast about new technologies like Internet of Things, how to put sensors in their entire manufacturing value chain. Now, how are you helping them in learn better and apply better? The technology themselves are also changing very fast. By the time you learn one technology, something new comes up. So
Exactly.
it is a difficult challenge. How do you manage that?
So, especially for this, well, we did it like a task force. I led it like a startup inside a large organization that is basically mapping all the challenges internally. Went to see partners and other manufacturers to see their challenges, and then mapping a lot of the startups and technologies in the academia and what is out there and who are the partners. But eventually, we opened an innovation lab. So it's a process where we screen startups and we get government funding to invest in those startups. So those startups would be able, and we get a small equity, but the startup gets the financing. It's a loan to the startup that he returns back 3% of his revenues, and he gets like a 12-month and one like $300,000, and a partner, a large company, manufacturing company that wants to integrate their solutions. So to be honest, this is the way we do it. We open an innovation lab and have somebody that is 100% time is to look and screen and work with startups to do POCs internally even before we invest in them, to challenge moonshot ideas.
Agmon, everybody feels that Israel is, one decade ahead of the world in terms of new technologies. Tell us a little bit about what are the new emerging technologies in manufacturing sector which countries like India can benefit from. What are the new technologies that are being experimented or conceptualized in Israel?
Okay, it's a good point. And first of all, if any company here would welcome me, I'll be happy to come and see your factory and see stuff to do. We are a valve company, so I'm not selling anything. But to answer your question, I imagine there's from some of the factories that I saw, there are some really state-of-the-art factories in India, and there's a very long tail of smaller workshops and manual workshops. And there's a lot of services as well and information data companies there. So in terms of information and services, I know there's a lot of AI in terms of language processing, understanding the conversation.
But in Israel, I'm asking you about Israel. What are the emerging technologies which are popular or becoming popular in Israel?
Well, AI is strong, and AI goes first of all also to language processing, which can go there, image processing for quality control anywhere where you have in your line something that you had somebody have to watch. Now it's becoming significantly easier to move it into a machine. We have AI in big data and machines. So if you're a process company and you have an extruder or you have a line of a process and it's already collecting data to your controllers and to the PLC, and you're collecting data from the quality control, it's fairly easy to say that there are AI solutions out there and startups in India that you can utilize and bring internally inside to solve a challenge and predict what's going to be the quality in the end of the process, predict when the line is going to fail, or give you data that later you design to fail. So moving from preventing to predictive is much more true now with startups than it was even 3 years ago, even though it was a buzzword even 3 years ago. And it's stuff that even if you're a small company or manufacturer in India, you just need to work with students or work with the university, show the challenge, work on collecting the data itself. We saw in Israel more companies that are, MES or measuring or having a clear view of your production, your overall equipment efficiency is easier today, even if you just put clips on energy on the cables. And we see a lot of companies that basically shows you a analytics tool and AI on it to drive insights for production. So AI for quality, predictive maintenance. Another thing that we see is, and that I don't think Israel is strong in it, but the cobots and collaborative robots is something that We see innovation in AI in how to control the cobots and how to let robots see and vision to see what is an object so it can grab it several times. Imagine in your factory, there are so many people that what they do is bin picking. They grab from a box and put it in the right location into the machine and then take it back from the machine. This is becoming extremely easy and extremely cost efficient. So relatively, and if the past was $100,000, $200,000 solution, today you can do it with 20,000 in software and simple cameras. And I think we'll see more and more of that. We see some AGVs, so logistics and moving stuff internally. It's not only for Amazon. We can see more and more solutions of AGVs, and we saw it in the COVID for remote presence, but also for deliveries and small schools and transferring from one machine to another machine is possible, even not a large one.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Agmon, these are very important pieces, and I think the cost reduction is important part because it allows affordability and smaller companies can use it. But if I go into core engineering, you were talking about your the Valve company, but has core engineering to solve problems or to build, has there been any change in the way that technology has impacted engineering itself?
That's a great question, and I think so. Of course, there are much more tools today, from under CAD itself, right? So the CAD was a great revolution of designing, but now we see tools. It's not widely used, but we see AI to optimally design for optimal 3D composition of it and structure. But also for flow, we're a valve company, so we do the same for optimization for flow. We look much more at 3D printing. We're a metal processing company. We have hundreds of CNC machines, so we have to look at 3D metal printing, and there are some great values there in flow. There's literally almost any field that you are looking at. There's room for innovation, and the Industry 4.0 revolution means that today you can, just like us, we're a valve company, able to take a small chip and put it inside the valve, just simply put it inside the valve and already get the connectivity to the cloud and have features on it and do analysis and health indicator and a variety of stuff. As a rule of thumb, if you're selling something that is, let's say, $1,000, a product, most likely you can add inside a $10 electronics and get immediate connection with your customer if you're working through distributors and get feedback from the customers and provide huge value compared to the competitors. I think part of this drive of the revolution is if you're not doing it, if you're not putting robotics in your production and vision in the production and removing the number of hands touching the product till the end and giving the value and optimizing it, then the others are doing it and they're bringing higher value because it's easy for them to do it relatively. And in the future, just like in agriculture, 97% of the people did agriculture, now it's 3%, same as with manufacturing. I think we'll see much more companies that are bigger, that grew big because they implemented the innovation in robotics, and smaller that lose.
So I think that's a great learning. Let me close and ask you the final question. When you say that these structural changes are happening, it also means that the people who are working, the engineers and the people who manage the process have to also educate themselves better. Do you see that happening in the right way?
Well, it's two ways. There's also fear. Anytime I saw a robot coming into the production, I saw the worker itself with fear that the robot is replacing it, and then him with love with the robot because he sees he's not being replaced because the workers, as you know, is difficult to find, but he's taking out bad and dirty. In terms of engineering, it's challenging, and most of the time it's easier to bring another team member that is an expert in the software or did the boards. And the electronics, yes, they have to learn some more, and we see more and more people have to get some more skills to move to digital.
Right. Thank you, Agmon, for joining us from Sharma, near the Sea of Galilee in Israel, and we really enjoyed the conversation. As you said, more and more changes are happening, small changes, improved affordability, but great value to the entire manufacturing and production process. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Walk the Tech Talk.